Shadybrook Asylum was established in the fall of 1873 and was founded by the state of New York's medical board. It was by means to hold extreme and often criminal patients, though off the books was also a dumping ground for the wealthy to place relatives that, in their eyes, embarrassed them. The building was built on a small plot of land in the country, away from any major city, and during that time the sleepy town of Shadybrook had not been established, and the building had a living quarters for the staff. Reports at the time established a number of doctors and nurses to be around 30 on-site staff to watch over 39 patients residing inside the main asylum complex. Conditions worsened over the years. Patients were subjected to beatings and experimental practices. Diaries recovered from the staff housing buildings mentioned the frustration and stress of residing so close to the asylum. Some mentioned the feeling of being just as imprisoned as the patients themselves. An entry from the journal of Dr. Ezra Kane read as such. December 22nd, 1883. Another patient attacked today, and poor Miss Cleric was escorting the patient Vincent Powler back to his room when somehow the man exhibited great strength and broke through his restraining jacket. Powler then turned onto Miss Cleric and tore into her throat with the teeth like some possessed beast. The poor girl died right there in the corridor of the West Wing. Vincent Powler was then relocated to the lower isolation ward. I detest this place. It's hard enough to work amongst the screams, but to rest knowing that across the courtyard is a building filled with the insane is weighing greatly on my mind, and after today's incident, even more so. This place, this damned place, I cannot rest. The years at Shadybrook waned on, and despite the incidences that occurred, nothing could compare to the horror that was to come in the great storm of 1888. On March 11th, 1888, the biggest blizzard ever recorded hit the East Coast, blanketing everything in deep snow. Everything was put in a dead standstill. Businesses, emergency services, as well as the monthly supply run to Shadybrook. No messages could be sent and no communication was relayed due to the blizzard. Now this is where interpretation of what transpired comes into play, and belief of investigators at the time points to whatever happened to the asylum transpired during the evening of March 11th. Due to the weather conditions, it was difficult for the supply lines to reach the asylum, and on the morning of March 20th at precisely 10:46 a.m., the asylum suppliers, Frederick and Orphans Trading Company, reached the front doors. What came next was heavily recorded by the two gentlemen sent on the supply run and following investigators in interviews. The men reported hearing nothing but silence and feeling a stillness in the air. As they opened the front doors to the entrance hallway, they saw nothing. No secretary, no doctors, no nurses, and strangely, above all else, no cries of the patients, which was quite a common occurrence. As they moved forward through the building, they were greeted with the most ghastly of sights that only hell itself could conjure up. The bodies strewn across the frozen courtyard, some cut up, blood pooling onto the white snow. And they decided not to venture further and traveled as fast as they could, heading back into the city to fetch the authorities. A complete investigation of both the asylum and the staff housing revealed ghoulishly blood-soaked and limbs strewn about, and dismembered parts. They were discovered of both patients and staff, and initial reports labeled the incident as a patient uprising. However, the evidence did not present as such. Here is an excerpt of a report from Detective Nelson Mills of the initial investigation. Walking into the cells was like walking into a twisted human slaughterhouse. The adjoining infirmary was equally grotesque, and something disturbed me more than the carnage, if that's even possible. My partner, Detective Fredericks, labeled this as a patient riot, but the thing that was gnawing at my mind was that after examining the bodies up close and seeing the cuts, well, I'd have to say it was almost surgical. Like some twisted bastard had no conscience cutting up these people. I doubt patients could have done all of these. And what disturbed me more was that it would have to have been many people knowingly cutting up these victims. Further investigation of the lower sections of the asylum revealed to contain 2 infant cots, both empty. What kind of twisted place is this to have children in? I should have more to go on soon. The Winter Massacre of 1888, as it's come to be known, revealed neither the killers nor any leads to the cause, and only one other item by a patient in his cell left a cryptic message carved onto the wall just below the window. And it was as such, a very simple sentence saying, "Please, for the love of God, stop smiling." 30 years later, the asylum was reopened and redesigned to wash out any memory of that terrible event. Soon after, the town of Shadybrook sprung up to house nearby staff and having a flowing trade in and around the asylum and other towns. However, Shadybrook's dark past would soon resurface, and of course, would it plague the asylum for years to come.